to the webinar on discovering the power of alternative savings programs. My name is Linda Williams, and I am a Community Outreach and Training Manager at Consumer Action, as well as your host for the day. I am thrilled, absolutely thrilled to be here with you for this excellent webinar focusing on alternative savings programs, programs that can provide a vital pathway for consumers to build financial resilience, secure long-term goals, and avoid high-cost debt. But before we dive into the webinar, I would first like to express our sincere gratitude to our sponsor, Wells Fargo. Their generous support has been instrumental in making this webinar possible, and we are deeply appreciative of their contributions to our mission. And here to welcome you from Wells Fargo is Lawrence Baldish. Lawrence, are you there?
I am, Linda. Thank you for the warm introduction. I'm very happy to be here. At Wells Fargo, we focus our philanthropic efforts in improving our communities, providing financial opportunities, securing housing access and affordability, and growing small businesses. We're proud to be supporters of all of these organizations you'll hear from today, and excited to be welcoming you to this discussion on alternative savings programs. Now, to be clear, these alternative savings programs aren't asking folks to invest in Labubu dolls. Those are Beanie Babies for people closer to my age, or short citrus futures or anything like that. They're looking at innovative ways to provide, analyze, and in some cases incentivize increasing the savings of families using both new and tried methods. So Consumer Action, thanks again for having me, and excited to hear what Jason, Tasha, and Bruce are going to have to say. Thank you.
Great, Lawrence. Thank you very, very much. Now, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items to ensure a streamlined and efficient experience for everyone, respecting your valuable time. This is a 90-minute webinar that is being recorded. You will receive a link to the recordings in about a week, along with the PowerPoint slides that are used by the speakers today. We highly value your interaction and would love to hear from you. So your questions are essential to the success of this webinar. So please submit the questions in the question function. At the end of all presentations, Nelson Santiago is going to lead a question and answer segment with our fabulous guest speakers. This is your opportunity to engage, so please submit those questions. Before you sign off today, you will receive a brief survey evaluating today's training. Your input is highly appreciated, and it will help us understand if we've met your expectation for today's training. Now, for those of you who are new to Consumer Action, let me introduce our organization to you. We are a national nonprofit. We're dedicated to education and advocacy. What sets us apart from other organizations is our commitment to all consumers, but especially underrepresented consumers nationwide. We empower consumers by providing multilingual educational materials, engaging in community outreach, trainer workshops, and focusing on important advocacy issues. We assist low and moderate income individuals, limited English speakers, and other underrepresented communities across the nation in achieving their financial goals. For over 54 years, Consumer Action has been that reliable partner for consumers on their financial journey. Our longstanding commitment and extensive experience has built confidence in the communities we serve, ensuring them that they can trust our support. Now, if you learned a little bit more about Consumer Action, let's dive into today's presentation. I am deeply honored and pleased to introduce the knowledgeable and passionate individuals who will be sharing their insights with us today. Our first speaker is Jason Ewas. Jason advances person-centered solutions that provide everyone in America with access to well-designed savings tools and rate of return that can generate financial stability and wealth building across a lifespan, from young adulthood through retirement. Prior to joining Aspen's financial security program, he was the senior policy manager at Commonwealth, a nonprofit that focuses on advancing financial security. While at Commonwealth, he led their partnership with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to clarify regulations on emergency savings. He managed a project with a Fortune 100 company to lay the groundwork for a cutting-edge emergency savings programs. And he also organized and executed a rapid campaign around raising awareness of crucial pandemic-related tax changes in 2021. Jason was also the founder and first director of the economic, mobile lab in the mayor's office at the city of Boston under Mayor Martin J. Walsh. Welcome, Jason. Following Jason will be Tasha Bishop. As digital content marketing manager at SaverLife, Tasha oversees the strategy and creation of member-facing content. She designs resource partnerships to connect members with the best resources for their unique financial goal. She is passionate about helping members build their financial health and lift their voices to create a more inclusive financial system. Tasha brings over a decade of experience in the financial health space, including extensive work in marketing and development strategies for nonprofits serving LMI populations. She holds a BA in economics from the University of Louisville and an MA in International Commerce and Economic Development from the Patterson School of Diplomacy and International Commerce at the University of Kentucky. She lives in Louisville with her husband and 3 cats. And in her free time, if she has any, you can find Tasha hiking, practicing yoga, or planning her next trip. Bruce McClary is our final speaker. He will follow Tasha. Bruce is an audience favorite. You remember him from a couple of months ago when he did a great presentation for us. Bruce is the Senior Vice President of Media Relations and Memberships for the National Foundation for Credit Counseling. As the lead spokesperson, Bruce provides communication support for the nation's largest and longest serving network of nonprofit credit counseling organizations. He manages activities focused on industry collaboration and membership growth. With decades of experience in the financial service sector, Bruce often draws upon his experience as a debt collector, a lender, and certified credit counselor when speaking to journalists about personal finance matters. During his career, he has provided one-on-one financial counseling to thousands of consumers, trained financial educators, and reached millions through print and broadcast media. Welcome, Bruce. Now that I've introduced our fabulous guest speakers to you, let me turn this presentation over to Jason so that we can learn a little bit more about financial security. Jason, you should have control.
Thank you so much, Linda. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you to you and Nelson, the Consumer Action Team, for making this webinar happen and inviting me to speak for a few minutes, and Wells Fargo for funding. I did have Beanie Babies on the presentation, but I took it off after hearing that was too far afield. Just kidding. We stay generally within the realm of accepted savings and investing. But again, I tried to add in this presentation a little bit of the lean into the alternative or the non-bank account sort of standard process that folks have. And then thanks to my excited for Tasha and Bruce to hear them afterwards and to do Q&A with them as well. So again, Linda, hard to follow that intro. Thank you for doing that for me. So I'm the initiative lead of early wealth building and emergency savings at the Aspen Institute Financial Security Program. And we are a nonprofit based in DC, although I am based in Massachusetts as a lifelong New Englander. We focus sort of on a broad range of issues. So, there's not a product that we make, right? Or even a type of product. So what I'll aim to offer everybody today is a survey of saving and investing across a lifetime. There's frameworks that I'll use that we talk about as a think tank that convenes leaders and practitioners across the country. But I will also aim to sort of within that provide specific solutions or ideas, without naming a bunch of specific places. So that is the goal. So I've just set myself up to talk about saving across a lifetime. So Here we go. Let's see, I will press this. See if I can move this along. There we go. So that's me. Well, that's not me. It was me before. That's my name. Again, the Aspen Institute Financial Security Program. We've been around for 10 years. There were previous iterations at the Aspen Institute. So this is, we've been sort of in the field of financial security, focusing on the well-being of households and how we really can help advance and elevate solutions that, help them achieve their financial goals. As it says, they're creating the conditions for growth and taking a person-centered approach. So I think that informs all of our work. It's not just, research and what a few people are saying at a few companies, but really trying to lead with the household, right? How are they experiencing the economy? What tools do they have, and what tools do they need to, again, achieve not just sort of short-term financial stability, but long-term well-being, and to really thrive in the ways that they want for themselves and their families. You'll see all of these three pictures are from events that we hold. That is one major way that we do our work and learn, frankly, from others, is convening events for people to share the work that they're doing. And so that is what informs a lot of our work. And this is, I've said versions of this, but just for those of you who might like words on a page, our mission is to illuminate and solve the most critical financial challenges facing American households, and to make financial security for all a top national priority. And so through that, we identified a lot of sort of solutions and challenges, and today I'll be identifying a lot of the solutions, focused on alternative savings, obviously, and we aim for nothing less than a more inclusive economy with reduced wealth inequality and shared prosperity. So that is what our focus is, and a little bit on how we get there. Again, given the focus of today's presentation, won't dive too much into the convening work. I think this gives you a sense of the types of topics that we focus on. So again, households, if our focus is households, and that's where we start, they do not have the luxury of choosing a particular topic, right? So we don't do that either. Across, we have 4 teams that focus on sort of different areas. We do a lot of work now on fraud and scams, financial shocks, and the broader financial infrastructure. Another set on benefits, with particularly on sort of modernizing and improving benefits delivery, as well as on policy, focusing on ways, new and innovative ways for people to build wealth. And then the focus of today's presentation, and the team that I sit on, is on what we call inclusive saving and investing, saving across a lifetime, early wealth building accounts, automatic emergency savings. So again, that's a sort of, might be a traditional product, but but offered in a new way, with some match opportunities for certain employers, and retirement savings. And so that is where we'll focus, sort of identifying some new trends in those areas. And again, sort of broadly, outside of a regular checking or savings account, what are the opportunities that exist for people to save and to invest their money for long-term growth and for long-term goals as well. I'll breeze through this one despite how much is on there. Again, the Aspen Institute Financial Security Program has been around for 10 years. I've been here for 3 of those 10. And this is just like a very high-level summary of the types of work that we do. So you'll notice we have the Aspen Leadership Forum on retirement savings. The top is sort of stuff that we control, for the most part, things that we've highlighted at our events. Obviously, these, like every single one of these, is a collection of people over decades moving the work forward. But just a note, sort of where we tend to focus, types of events we are, and then at the bottom in the dark blue, you'll note we just note some important policy and other milestones that are associated with our inclusive saving and investing portfolio. Again, we're not taking credit for all of these, or credit or blame, depending on your perspective on them. Just noting that these are important things where often we had some level of input, even if at the level of elevating research, and others we were more directly engaged in. But just to give you a sense of, the decade of work that we've done, really a emphasis on we started with a focus on retirement savings, with a focus on access to retirement savings, and over the years have expanded to include, again, savings products and vehicles across a lifetime. And that brings us to 2025. So early wealth building. So now we're going to get into the really sort of some of the tangible part of like, what are the products out? What is this? But also, what products, vehicles are out there for people to use and access, and what are the relative advantages and disadvantages of them? So early wealth building accounts is a phrase that Aspen FSP uses. Other places use different phrases with different acronyms, but it all really means early wealth building accounts really mean accounts started when people are young, early in their lives, ideally at birth, meant to build wealth for them over the long term, and for them to make eventually, once they reach at least young adulthood, for them to make investments in themselves and potentially in their families. And so there's different variations of that, but really our focus on it, and I think why it sort of falls into the alternative savings bucket, is one, just looking at the numbers, not a lot of folks, even folks, generally it's folks with kids who have these, but not everybody opens them. So these for many households may be seen as an alternative or a different type of savings vehicle than one they're accustomed to. And there are also just a lot of them out there. There are a lot of ways to save and options, some of which come with tax advantages. Others may come from local governments or local nonprofits with seed funding. So these are ones that that we focus on because, again, there may be resources. Most of them are state and local, with one exception, which I'll talk about now. So the sort of the federal government for decades has made available 529 plans. That's probably what folks are most familiar with. There is now an expanded range of uses, but mostly that's for post-secondary or eligible education. Again, I'm not going to dive into the details, but if you have a young person in your life, either your child or a relative or even a friend's kid, this is an option to explore, whether to open and to regularly contribute to it. Again, anybody can opt in. There's no restrictions. States offer different accounts. Again, there's a whole host of resources around like which one offer relative advantages, but anybody can open one from any state. It really, the note here is that in the vast majority of cases, it does, like, the families themselves are contributing. Again, not exclusively, but mostly. The individual or family controls the account, and as the questions note here, there's no public investment in these, certainly not at the national level. And I also, before I get too deep into this, will note that as I was prepping for this, I was reviewing existing resources, and the Asset Funders Network recently produced a brief that included this very table that you see before you. So just to give them full credit, as opposed to me recreating it when they did such a nice job, to give them full credit for creating this table. So that's 529 plans. Again, everybody can open those. The investments, an important component of those is the investments generally grow tax-free as long as they're used for eligible purposes. So there is a real advantage to those with a long-term time horizon if people have, the additional resources to save, obviously, and again, maybe outside of sort of the traditional suite of options that people think about. Another one that is sort of, this is a pretty broad bucket, but children's savings accounts are another sort of part of this. There's a lot of these in state and local programs. Often that they include a typical small deposit. I will say, my son was born in 2023, and I live in Massachusetts, and the state of Massachusetts has a program called Baby Steps, where at the hospital we opened an account for him through the state's plan, and it was seeded with $50. from the state of Massachusetts. So a lot of, I don't, given the goal of, my goal today is to do savings across a lifetime. I'm not going to present as, an option, like a comprehensive review of where those exist, other than to say that from your perspectives, this is an available resource that one can provide some a seed funding for long-term funding for folks and their kids, but also provide them a vehicle that they can save in longer term as well. So there is some consumer action, pun unintended, required for this. But again, there are dozens, if not over 100 of these across the country in states and localities. So particularly in large metro regions, and in some whole states as well. So encourage folks to look at state and local children's savings accounts programs. There are also, just to tick through the list, there are also baby bond programs. Those tend to be larger dollar amounts. A key distinction among those, and especially among existing programs, the most prominent one being in Connecticut, is that they tend to be significantly larger initial deposits than children's savings accounts. So the Connecticut's initial deposit for eligible kids is $3,200. A key feature of them in a lot of proposals, though, is that families can't contribute to them as a vehicle. So that's just more of again, in the interest of raising awareness of early wealth building options. That's just one to check and see if people, to raise awareness of it as a topic for people, but also there are in a few, and there may be more in the future, where people have these accounts and don't know about them, right? And at the very least, it's good to know that there's a few $1,000s, ideally, growing over time, over decades, in those accounts. And then the last thing to raise awareness is, folks may have heard about this one as well, but is Trump accounts. It was included in the OB3, the big budget bill that passed in July, which obviously included a lot of provisions affecting financial security, but for the purposes of inclusive saving and investing, one of them was this, what they call Trump accounts. Functionally, the Treasury is the Treasury Department in the legislation is charged with standing up this program next year. So for this, right now, there's nowhere to go open a Trump account, but when one can do that in the next 9 months or so, kids born between 2025 and 2028. So again, not my son, who was born in 2023, and I'm only slightly bitter about that, will be eligible for $1,000. So he missed out on it. So there's a 4-year window to test the program. If kids open an account, they have a social security number, and they're born between January 1st, 2025 and December 31st, 2028, the government will deposit $1,000 into that account. It will be an investment account, again, like an index fund, but it will be just that initial $1,000. Families and friends can contribute, philanthropy can contribute, and employers can contribute. Now, a lot of the details need to be worked out, and they will matter a ton as to what uptake looks like and how successful the program ultimately is, particularly for those people from low and moderate income households. But in the interest of sort of the prompt, alternate savings, and particularly something that is new to the saving and investing scene, and especially if you have a kid or somebody who had a kid, or they will in that window, all right, that's $1,000 provided by the government that the young person can access for when they turn 18. Again, I could and in fact have talked at great length about some of the details and importance there, but I think just for the purposes of today, that's an opportunity to track. So that's early wealth building, and I think alternative saving, so there are a bunch of different vehicles, but I think it's important. One of our main points at FSP is that, and any advisor will tell you this too, the earlier you start, the better, particularly with the power of compound interest, and particularly with the potential growth of capital markets. I mean, we think that in order to financially thrive, every young person really at this point needs to enter young adulthood with an investable sum. Obviously, many for reasons that are not their own, and part of some structural issues, like do not have that, could not be expected to do that on their own. And so these savings accounts are one way to, at least for families who are able to save, to be able to do that. And then in some of these cases, to be able to access government resources and government deposits that help them at least get a way towards an investable sum or an amount that they can invest in their future. So this is all, again, this is early wealth building is in my title for a reason. I love this stuff, and happy to answer more questions about it. I think I have by my count, I have maybe 9 minutes left. My retirement focused colleagues will understand that I spent more time on early wealth building, but saving across a lifetime, I'm going to give a little overview of how we think about this work, and basically call attention to a couple of different, I don't know if they're quite alternative, but I'll give myself some leeway with that word, savings solutions. And again, our focus tends to be, though not exclusively, is savings options through the workplace. Obviously, a lot of people do not have a quote unquote traditional employment employer who offers benefits in the way that a traditional employer does, but still tens of millions do, including those with low to moderate incomes. So that's what we're talking about here. Obviously, we also do work on and care deeply about those who don't, but that's just to add that caveat up front. Part of the Aspen Institute Financial Security Program has a long history of focusing on retirement savings. One speaker in an event noted that, if we're thinking about how the country advances financial security, retirement savings at the end is sort of is the report card for that, right? For how we're doing as a country in advancing access to long-term savings. And so this is sort of breaks down why we care deeply about this, and why exploring different ways to both save for the long term and preserve long-term savings that exists already are really important. So millions of Americans are living longer. I touched on this earlier, financial systems increasingly leave people on their own. Many people can't afford to save. Again, it is hard to ignore that fact in many cases. Although we believe strongly that with the right tools, that many low-income people can save and do save and want to save, right? So it's not about a binary there, but we do like to acknowledge that. And the right tools can go a long way in making that possible, which is what we're talking about today and what we care about. Obviously, in this, the system that we have outside of sort of action among individuals and the groups that support them, it does work for some. A ton of wealth generated in the retirement system. At least the second largest source of wealth in the United States behind housing. There's some, I got to look at some research that's saying that might have even flipped, but and that's not all just for very wealthy people, but it leaves others out, right? So given that this has been a incredible wealth generation tool, even for many, moderate middle income people, how can we expand access to that? And then once people retire, there's a set of tools, which I won't really get into, that offer ways to sort of preserve, that offer income after retirement. So I'm seeing I have a couple minutes left. So one way to think about sort of the tools available to people for retirement is to think about the life cycle of a retirement saver, right? And so I would say that in terms of, again, whether one defines this as alternative, we don't know, but for many, it's not an active tool for, tens of millions of people. So we think it's worth calling attention to. When we say access, that really means access to workplace-based retirement savings. I think this, some people are auto-enrolled into it, others are not. Some people, when they get a job, opt out or do not sign up for retirement. and potentially forego a match from their employer. So they're leaving long-term resources on the table, and then maybe their financial situation changes and improves later, but they still, because the action's required, they're not enrolled in it. So I think like people taking advantage of their employer match for tax reasons, one, but also to potentially capture any match from their employer is important. So I would just, so like the note, there are a bunch of retirement savings vehicles, I think, outside of a checking and savings account. Like if you have access to a workplace-based plan, to use it, and if not, there are, you know, a variety of non-workplace retirement options, again, which I won't, you know, which I don't think I have time to detail here, but would encourage folks to look into those and look at payroll deduction. And you can see here some of the like the life cycle being first access and affordability, and then saving and investing. So continuing to contribute to that account, saving more if it's available, and then I won't really touch on it all, like when folks retire, but there are a series of questions then for folks who are later in their careers and considering retirement, options like, you know, through financial counseling and other tools that can preserve. So I think, you know, one of Aspen FSP's ways of engaging in this space and working to tackle this issue is through what we call the Workers' Wealth Lab. So this is a new idea, a convening of the types of folks who offer solutions. I'll just, for the purposes of this webinar, just mention like one of the focus areas. And again, it's also in my title, so I'm biased. But I'm biased because I think it's a great solution, is emergency savings, and in particular, workplace emergency savings. The Workers' Wealth Lab, though, is really about figuring out how to increase access, how to make workplace retirement savings work for everybody, particularly those who are low to moderate income. And so that's like a lot of our, just to give you like a sense of not just a bunch of tools and frameworks, but also like this is how we intend to really move the needle among folks offering some of these solutions. I think with emergency savings, again, in terms of like an action item or an alternative savings vehicle, basically a workplace emergency savings plan is a checking or savings account, except that, or the defining feature is that the employer sets up regular deposit through payroll deduction into that account. So you get some in your regular checking account with the you know, the bulk of your money, and another portion of those funds goes into an emergency savings account, which is meant for emergencies, things that come up that you don't budget for necessarily, or that one hasn't budgeted for in their monthly expenses. And so there's a variety of companies out there that offer the solution, and some employers offer matches. And so in terms of like just things to look at, again, this is still a relatively early stage, but you know, alternatives, like I would say, to lean on that phrase, like yes, it is usually just usually a sort of pretty typical savings account, except what really matters is how you save in it, right? And that action of automatic deduction of a certain amount on every pay period, you know, puts it out of mind. And you know, as behavioral science suggests, like that's a really and it being a separate bucket, those are really compelling ways to encourage people to save. And so that is it. So saving across a lifetime, from early wealth building to retirement. I appreciate the opportunity and look forward to hearing the panelists after me. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, I will take it from here. So thanks so much, Jason. I have a whole list of notes already about new content ideas. So that was great. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for the opportunity to be here, to Consumer Action and Wells Fargo for getting us all together here today. My name is Tasha Bishop. I am the Digital Content Marketing Manager here at SaverLife, and excited to spend a few minutes today with you guys to share a little bit about how SaverLife is using technology to transform financial lives and help build a more inclusive and equitable economic system. So let's get into it. Linda, I'm not able to move the slides right now.
Give me 1 second. I got knocked out. I'm back
All
in.
good.
Yeah, you should have control now. Here you go.
Here we go. Okay. So yes, let's dive into first kind of a bird's eye view. Who is SaverLife? We're a nonprofit using technology to help people living on low to moderate incomes improve their financial health. We have over 720,000 members across the country. Our members are primarily low to moderate income, primarily women, and primarily people of color. Something that defines us, and I think we're in good company today with the other organizations on this webinar, is that we're guided directly by our members. So their financial data, their personal stories, their lived experience, that truly shapes everything that we do. So leveraging our app and research findings, we seek to amplify the voices and priorities of our members to ensure that both current and emerging financial products, programs, and policies support their unique financial health journeys. So how are we doing that? Kind of a three-pronged approach here. So first, members gain access to our app, a thriving, supportive online community. Most people come to us through digital marketing efforts or someone they know. So a friend, a family member, a counselor, an advocate, many of you today on the webinar maybe, sends them to SaverLife.org. They come from all over the country, and within the app, they're finding support to save more, to build financial stability, and improve their overall financial health. Once they get into the app, they're greeted with guidance and incentives to help their savings grow, but not just that, also to help their overall financial health improve. Within the app, they're getting personalized tools, saving rewards, trusted referrals, a supportive community, and also, which I think is unique and amazing, an opportunity to join our advocacy efforts. So leading me into number 3, which is we learn from our members. So we take what we know, we take the feedback that we get, we turn that insight into research that really drives action. That research drives action not just for us to further enhance and personalize our app, improve our product, improve our content, but also helps policymakers and the financial health field to shape what we hope are more inclusive and equitable financial systems. So to give you a little more insight into what that looks like, I just want to walk you through kind of the member journey. So again, someone comes from maybe a referral from a friend or a digital marketing campaign. Through the onboarding experience into SaverLife, they're going to complete a financial health profile. Within that, we're going to ask questions about financial goals, income sources, financial struggles to really get a good picture of what their unique situation looks like. In addition, they have the opportunity to connect a financial institution account. All of that information helps us to personalize their experience once they're in the app. So everything that I show you from now on is really dependent, what they see is dependent on what their unique financial situation says about them. So first, you can see in the left screenshot, as they scroll through the app, they're going to be greeted with a lot of different activities that they can take advantage of. So those may be articles, they may be videos, quizzes, infographics. As they engage with the articles, they're earning points. And so that will come into play on the next slide. Also, as they scroll through the app, they're going to be greeted with Saver Perks opportunities. So those are kind of our curated referral sources. We've gotten really good at helping people build savings habits, but obviously we know a lot of people out there in the field that are doing other things, and we want to give our members the opportunity to access these resources to build their overall financial health. So there may be things like how to cut expenses or credit and debt referral partners. The one you see on the screen now is a financial coaching partner, Advisors Give Back, who provides free pro bono financial advising services. So those are carefully vetted. And again, recommendations are based on the unique goals or struggles that our members share with us. Our content also, we strive to be very actionable and timely. So we are making sure that, we have a content calendar, things we know, we plan, but also the financial world is rapidly evolving, as we all know. So we try to also have kind of rapid response articles and things that address what people might be dealing with actually today. So people scroll through the app, they have access to the activities, to the Saver perks. What's next? This is where some of the magic happens. The platform is gamified, and so we provide incentives, prizes, rewards for engaging with the activities in the app. As they engage with the articles, with the quizzes, they earn points, they accumulate those points, and then they're able to use those to play different games. So one is like a lottery style scratcher where they can go when they have points and potentially win $5. So real cash to put into their savings account. We also run challenges. So the one you see on the screen here is kind of a monthly challenge that we do, a race to 25. So if they've connected a bank account, a savings account, then they commit to saving $25 in a month. They're able to track it here within the app. If they meet that goal, then they are entered for a chance to win $100. So that's a regular challenge. We also have kind of themed challenges throughout the year with bigger prize pots. So we have a holiday savings boost, a tax time, and sometimes those pots can be up to $15,000 of prizes for people. So trying to incentivize, give real money, reward people for starting to build that savings habit. Also, another thing I want to point out is I talked about the personalized nature of the app. You can see below that it says gigs and small business activities. So that shows up for our members who identify as gig workers or micro entrepreneurs, and they have a select kind of course of activities that they can engage in, again, that are personalized to their experience. Within everything that we do, we're kind of testing and doing research. And so what we've seen is, especially with our gig and micro entrepreneur audiences, having that personalized content really increases their engagement, right? So continuing to see that personalization and curated content helps people to be more engaged with our app and ultimately hopefully their financial life. So I'm excited to talk about this. This is one of the newest additions to our app. So we've recently built a AI-powered financial navigator, provides instant personalized support to our members. The navigator is built on generative AI, but with strict guardrails. So it draws primarily on content created by our certified financial experts, so that we ensure that the responses are accurate, they're trustworthy, they're aligned with best practices, but also still personalized to each member's goals and behaviors. So again, the things our members tell us about themselves, which I should note is all with consent and all optional. So people do not have to fill out the financial profile to take advantage of the app. They do not have to connect their bank account, but it obviously gives us a richer experience here. So yeah, the app is, or the AI-powered financial guidance, really rooted in real experiences, the lived experiences of our members, and member-centered. So when we were designing this, we used insights from LMI individuals, our members, and truly built it in partnership with our members. And we continue to. So as we go through, continuing to evolve this tool, we're gathering feedback throughout the development for our members to make sure that we're building it with them in mind and continuing to evolve it with them in mind. But I'll highlight a couple of things that you can see on the screen. So we have prompt questions, right? There's a lot of, I think, fear or maybe hesitancy about AI. So I think it's important that we show people how they can use it. What can I ask? So again, these questions that pop up for our members here, these prompts are personalized based on what they're experiencing. So if they're a micro entrepreneur, maybe they've expressed that they would like to earn more income. The question here may be, how can I start earning more income? Take you directly to chat with the AI and take it from there. Within that, we're also going to provide personalized recommendations for different saver perks or articles that may be of interest. And we've also created kind of a debt check-in. So for those members that identify debt as an issue, they can take this short 3 to 5 question quiz through the AI navigator and then get personalized recommendations on what may be a good next step for them. Okay, so I've told you a lot about the app, but I think that the SaverLife experience is really best told through a member story. And so I'm going to take a minute here, have the honor of sharing David's story with you. So let's do that. So today, David's day starts the same way as it has for years, with the gentle or not so gentle nudging of 4 demanding cats, including Shiva, his 18-year-old companion who keeps him grounded. David says, she gets me out of bed even when I don't want to. She's like a little accountability partner. And before anyone asks, I do not have pictures of the cats, and I do apologize for that in advance. But today, David's life is filled with purpose, with community, with a touch of opera. But to understand how he got here, with over $30,000 in savings, 0 credit card debt, and the real possibility of home ownership, we're going to rewind back to 1994, a year that changed everything for David. In 1994, David was diagnosed with HIV. As he said, that really made me stop and look at my life. At the time, addiction had a grip on him. Financial health, stability, and structure were out of reach. He says, everything I had was going out of my pocket to other people. I didn't understand what it meant to build something for myself. So for him, getting clean was the first step. He entered a treatment program that didn't just support his sobriety, it connected him to the social services that would become the scaffolding for his recovery. Through the program, David was guided through applying for SSDI, accessing food assistance, and eventually entering a lottery for the Housing Choice Voucher Program. Through that, he moved into an apartment where he still lives today, rent controlled, more than 25 years later. While the support programs gave him a start, David says that the real work came in learning how to use them. This was before Google, so I'm sure we can imagine he had to go from agency to agency, make phone calls, look through lists. But for him, it wasn't about cutting corners, it was about being persistent. Now, through all of that, his finances didn't transform overnight. For years, he lived paycheck to paycheck, doing just enough to stay afloat. He says, I used to think that breaking even was winning. Savings felt impossible, and I didn't know where to begin. Then enter SaverLife. A friend suggested he sign up, and the gamified savings challenges, modest, simple, but consistent, got his attention. Save $5 this month, then 25. It was manageable, he said. I started treating it like a game. So David got in the habit of putting money away each paycheck, even if it was just a little. Over time, those little bits grew, slowly at first, but then more rapidly. For David, he says, it was about consistency. And eventually I looked at my account and thought, wow, I did that. He didn't stop there though. David began tackling his significant credit card debt too. He used balance transfers, moving high interest cards to 0 interest offers, made a habit of tracking his finance. And he credits SaverLife for the financial hacks that helped him keep making progress. So he said, once I learned how much it costs to owe money, I stopped thinking just about balances and thinking about interest. It was a game changer. As his savings grew and his debts shrank, something else started to shift, his sense of possibility. David says, I never thought home ownership would be in the cards, but once I had over 15,000 saved, I started asking questions. He discovered a little known home ownership program through the local housing authority, one that could use his rent subsidy to help pay for a mortgage. And he's now starting to look for his new condo. For David, financial health is not about luxury, it's about peace of mind. And we hear this from a lot of our clients, but I think David says it really well. It eases my anxiety, he said. I can pay for a vet bill if one of my cats gets sick. I don't have to beg, borrow, or panic. So we know David's story is one of setbacks and restarts, scraping by, slowly learning to thrive, but through the social programs he had access to, SaverLife tools, and obviously his own unwavering determination, he built something steady and something lasting. And so I'll leave you with his last quote. I haven't bought the place yet, he said, but I've gotten myself to a place where it's possible, and that in itself is amazing. So, yes, that's a member, an account of a true member story. Happy to share that, and I would suggest, this is not David's full story, so if you want more to that, then I suggest checking out him and some of our other member stories on our website. I will share a few numbers with you as well. So again, we kind of look at this as dual impact. It's first about supporting our members, providing that meaningful support, but also generating the insights that can impact the system and expand opportunity for them in the future. I love this quote from one of our members, SaverLife feels more like a family than just a website to go on. And that's what we're trying to create, right? A community of people who can learn from each other and learn from each other's experiences. but it's working. So you see here, 61% of members say 500 or more within 6 months of joining. 56% of members who improve their financial health score over time. So that financial health profile that they fill out at the beginning when they're onboarding, we also ask them to take every 6 months or so. And we can see that members are actually building their overall financial health as well. And then, you know, the big bang number, 1 billion is the amount of savings that SaverLife members have deposited into their accounts. So I think I have a few more minutes here to share with you a little bit more about the research side of the work that we're doing. So with our research, we're really focused on putting feedback into action. So not just gathering data for data's sake, but making sure that we turn that into meaningful action for our members and the financial health community. And we also want to ensure, obviously, our members are telling us very deep personal stories, putting deep trust in us. And so we want to make sure that we use that to help inform our product insights and provide insights to other organizations, policymakers, decision makers in the field. And we take a three-pronged approach to the research. So first and foremost is member voice. So again, those lived experiences of our members that we gather through these member interviews. We're going to meet the member to really dive deep, talk to them. We also do a lot of surveys of our members through our research arm. And then we incorporate a lot of like real-time feedback into our content. So there may be little polls or quizzes at the end of an article. We have a newsletter that goes out that always asks a question. So trying to get some like real-time feedback on current, relevant, like timely things that we want to know about. The next level there, financial data. So that's just giving us a deeper level of understanding into what our members' financial lives are actually like. And then behavioral data. So that can include that financial health profile or their in-app behavior. So what articles are people reading? What are they asking in the AI navigator? All of that helps us to identify trends, serve that personalized content and recommendations, and also continue to evolve our app and share those insights with other decision makers. And to give you just a little kind of example of how that feedback into action loop works for us, I'll talk a little bit about our climate research here. So obviously knowing that financial health doesn't exist in isolation and is impacted by a lot of broader challenges, one being climate change. With the support of Wells Fargo, we created the Downpour. This was a dedicated research initiative to really try to understand how climate disasters were affecting the financial lives of low to moderate income households. So the Downpour really highlighted kind of those economic ripple effects of climate events, the lost wages, the housing instability, the psychological impact it was having. And it brings forth member voices into this conversation about climate resilience, about financial equity, I think that we haven't heard before. So the report is really illuminating and I highly recommend checking it out, but I also want to highlight the ways that research got put into action. So first we did a lot of deep dive interviews, just like David, but with some of our other members to create a member story series, one that can connect our members to each other, some peer learning, so that insight, that community building, that I'm not in it alone, and then also amplify their voice into this broader national conversation that we're having about climate change. Through that, one member, Eliza, who lives in a floodplain in North Carolina, her story really highlighted kind of that worry, the fear that comes with the confluence of more frequent climate events and a financial situation, a budget that doesn't support preparedness for that. So seeing that worry and that fear come forth in her story, we knew that we needed to find resources and connect our members with them. And so we created content around things like understanding energy tax credits for home upgrades. We did personalized texts to some of our North Carolina members to highlight state and local programs that could benefit them. And then beyond that member impact, we've also shared this research at conferences and one-on-one meetings with policymakers and with financial institutions. So hopefully that gives you a good example of how kind of that feedback loop works and we put it into action. But ultimately, this work helped us design better supports for our members, also equipped the field, the advocates, policymakers with insights that they need and can use to help create stronger safety nets and systems that will help protect some of our most vulnerable communities. Great, so with that, I'm going to end here with one of our kind of guiding principles, financial health and well-being for everyone. So yeah, I would love if you have people you're working with that would benefit from the app, from the platform, or if you are curious, then I encourage you, SaverLife.org, you can go there and sign up, read more member stories, learn more about the research and the work that we're doing. So that'll do it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Tasha. Thank you. Thank you. Bruce, you should have control. Yes, you do. You should have control.
All right. Thank you, Linda. And I just want to do a time check. How much time do I have to run through my slides? I just want to make sure we're staying on track.
Just run through your slides, Bruce. You're fine.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you, Linda, and I appreciate you including me in this great group. You know, it's great to see Lawrence from Wells Fargo, and to follow Jason and Tasha. Great presentations, and I think it's a very important theme that we're talking about here in terms of wealth building and financial stability, and talking about savings and helping people achieve their goals and improved financial stability and overcoming financial challenges. And just a little bit about the NFCC, for those of you not familiar, the National Foundation for Credit Counseling is the largest and longest serving network of nonprofit credit counseling and financial counseling agencies in the nation. We've been around since 1951, and most of our members are known for their credit counseling and debt management programs that they offer to consumers who are struggling to overcome significant debt challenges. Many of our member agencies are also offering access to HUD-approved housing counseling, student loan repayment counseling, and other types of financial well-being services. So helping people move from renting to home ownership, or helping people preserve home ownership and avoid foreclosure. Those are also some of the other ways that our member agencies help. But for years, our member agencies have been primarily known, and the NFCC itself has been primarily known for helping people with debt management programs and credit counseling services. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is expanding our services to address consumer needs beyond that. And we'll be looking at how our agencies help people, are now helping people with financial stability beyond paying off their debt, getting out of debt, becoming debt-free, and getting out of debt delinquency. So we'll go through the problem, and the problem is data and research informed, and we'll talk about the solution and the future, and what we're building with our program, our Life Beyond Debt program, which I'll talk to you about in a minute, which is exactly what I described. It's about moving beyond the debt management program and the credit counseling services that we provide, and doing something that's directly assistive in helping once struggling consumers not only overcome debt challenges, but build financial stability through savings. And that's something we're really pleased to announce. So there's a lot of research that we conduct that gives us a window into what consumers are experiencing. And some of that research is based on data from counseling sessions that are conducted by our member agencies and reported up to the NFCC. And some of that research is based on nationwide polling that we conduct with the help of Harris Poll and with sponsorship from Wells Fargo. And so this helps us identify areas of need. This helps us identify trends in consumer behavior, and it helps us build the programs that improve financial well-being. So we'll first talk about the NFCC Financial Stress Forecast, and that's something that we're really proud to have launched in about a year and a half ago. It's a quarterly report that is produced by an economist that's working for us to analyze data from the Federal Reserve on consumer debt, but also using millions of data points from the counseling sessions that are conducted across the United States by our nonprofit credit counseling agencies. And combined, the two sources of data give us a really good picture and an ability to forecast debt delinquency trends and charge-off trends in the quarter or two ahead. And we often think of it as like a doctor's checkup versus a broad health survey. So the Federal Reserve data, that piece of it is like a national health survey. It tells us the big picture trends in consumer debt, in delinquencies and charge-offs. So it's a great tool for understanding what has happened. But the NFCC member agency data that we review with the help of our economists is very unique because it's sourced directly from the counseling sessions that take place with consumers across our network of member agencies. And these sessions reveal personal circumstances and difficult choices that people are making with their money when they're in financial crisis and when they're reaching out for help. And when NFCC certified credit counselors see a rise in clients who are struggling, it serves as an early warning signal for what the broader economy will experience in the coming quarters. And this data is very unique, and it's a critical early warning indicator of potential economic stability. So by combining this on-the-ground perspective with the Fed's larger historical data, the NFCC can more accurately predict where delinquency and charge-off rates are headed. So that's why the financial stress forecast future trends give us a high degree of accuracy. So it's a very accurate way for us to predict or forecast what is happening. Oop, went too far there. Hold on. Let me go back. There we go. So right now, the financial stress forecast is telling us that it's at its highest level since 2019. The scale is 0 to 10, gauging how much financial stress consumers are experiencing, and it is at a 6.6. And it's not necessarily the fact that it's the highest since 2019 that is really the alarming thing for us. It's the fact that since 2021, where it reached a low of 3.2 on the scale of 0 to 10, it's now at 6.6. So it's a very steep curve, a steep line on the chart, indicating a very rapid increase in the financial stress scale. So what that tells us is anything above a 5 is concerning. So debt is dominating financial decisions for consumers. Consumers face mounting repayment challenges, and more appropriate and applicable to our discussion today, a majority of consumers are saying that debt is getting in the way of their ability to save anything at all. So that tells us what the future looks like a quarter ahead, that things are not getting better, they're getting worse for consumers in terms of financial stress. But the Harris Poll survey that we conducted with support from Wells Fargo this year, and the subsequent snapshot survey that happened in August, where Harris Poll went back into the field and looked at short-term trends on some of the questions that we asked, that gives us some insight into what's happening more broadly across the nation. And we did have a focus on savings in this survey, so it's directly applicable. So I'm going to skip some of the background and research method here, assuming that you'll get some of the slides after the presentation. You'll be able to go through some of these details. But it's a nationwide survey that broadly covers a range of financial topics, including debt, savings, financial knowledge, and how people feel about decisions they're making and their financial futures. And we surveyed the general population as well as different segments of the military and veteran population. So in the spring of 2025, we saw that just over half of Americans grade their own personal financial knowledge with an A or a B. So considering what they already know, though, despite the number of people that graded themselves with high marks, 4 in 5 feel they could still benefit from some advice and answers to everyday financial questions from professionals. So that's very encouraging for anybody who's out there offering financial education services, that people still recognize that they could benefit from that. And although 2 in 3 to 7 in 10 Americans give themselves high marks on their ability to identify scams, manage their spending and debt, and make good financial decisions, just over half give themselves an A or a B for their state of personal finances. And you know, this is very important to address the issue of being able to recognize scams, because there's so many scams out there that cause financial harm to consumers. And it's important when you're thinking of financial education and reaching people to inform them of scams, because there are a lot of wealth building scams, savings scams, as well as debt relief scams that are out there, and people are very vulnerable to those as the scammers are getting more creative and even using AI in targeting consumers. This next slide shows that in the spring of 2025, more than half of Americans do not have a budget. So this gets to the crux of managing debt and savings. Of the 2 in 5 who carry monthly credit card debt, the average debt is nearly $6,500, and more than 1 in 4 carry more debt than a year ago. And if somebody's carrying $6,500 in credit card debt from month to month, assuming they're carrying it at the annual rate of 22%, about 22.25%, if they're making a 3% minimum monthly payment, it would take them about 19 years to pay that off, and the interest would be about $9,500, which exceeds the principal balance, or the balance of $6,500 at that point. So very concerning that so many people are carrying so much debt from month to month, and that it is credit card debt. So a lot of attention needs to be focused there. 7 in 10 Americans are saving for retirement. Again, that's really good. We can do better, but that's good. But only half are confident they're saving enough, and 3 in 5 regret not saving for retirement as soon as they could. And we'll talk a little bit about non-retirement savings a little bit later. But while 2 in 3 Americans are paying their bills on time and have no debts in collection, many, as you see here, are struggling to make payments, and 3 in 10 have $0 for non-retirement. So 3 in 10 are not putting any money away in non-retirement savings and have nothing there already. So that's a very significant concern, because if any unexpected events happen, they're more likely to rely on available lines of credit and get themselves further into debt to take care of those things. So about 2 in 5 Americans are concerned their money won't last. 1 in 3 say they're just getting by financially. 3 in 10 feel like they're never going to have the things they want in life. And these are areas, again, that we're looking at when we're comparing August to spring. Broadly, these are areas that have gotten worse for consumers, not better, with more people reporting negative changes to their finances, more people struggling to pay their bills, and engaging in financial behavior like credit card balance transfers, and people saying that debt is just simply preventing them from getting the things they want in life. So there are a lot of struggles that are reported here in this survey that you can see here. And again, that just helps inform us that there's a significant need, not just for helping more people overcome debt challenges, but also for helping people build some financial stability with non-retirement savings, and going forward, helping people realize the value of putting aside money for their financial future during their retirement years. So again, just, this Harris poll data really underscores those needs. And in this slide here just shows that more Americans are now saying that debt impacts their decision making in other parts of life, and 1 in 2 feel they're constantly treading water financially and are focused on just surviving instead of improving their financial life. And when you're struggling and you're just treading water, it's almost impossible to think about putting aside money for savings or wealth building of any kind. So there is a savings crisis. A lot of Americans lack savings outside of retirement accounts, and even those who have retirement accounts say they're not really confident that they're saving enough or they've done enough to save for a financially stable retirement. And of course, only 1/3 of adults have 1/3 of adults have no money put aside for non-retirement savings. And there's a general inability to cover unexpected expenses among people who are struggling with savings, as well as dealing with debt repayment challenges. And with the financial stress forecast, again, we see that financial stress is at a multi-year high. The Harris poll tells us there are worsening debt behaviors, household budgets are strained, and there's, again, this widespread lack of non-retirement savings leading to financial vulnerability. So that inspired us to develop a program called Life Beyond Debt. Life Beyond Debt is a program that will help address some of these widespread financial instability issues, and it is focused initially on people who are struggling with debt, haven't been able to put aside any money into non-retirement savings and are dealing with a much more serious set of circumstances than people who are not facing debt challenges and may have been contributing to savings, both retirement and emergency savings. So the focus here is just helping the most financially vulnerable, the people who are struggling the most, get back on track and start putting aside money in savings in a way that fits their budget and in a way that is effective in achieving the results they need to have some kind of a cushion and some kind of a financial safety net. So we're essentially working with people here who had no hope at all of overcoming the significant debt challenges they're facing. They're reaching out for credit counseling and debt management plans. So that indicates that they're either already past due with their debt, or they are in debt collections or worse. And so that is all they see in front of them. So most of the individuals in these circumstances, and I know I was a counselor, they're not even in a position when they come in for their initial session, their initial financial review, to even think realistically about what it would be like to start putting aside money into savings and to start growing that savings and to start realizing that financial stability can be achieved while balancing a household budget and putting these debt problems in their past. So there's a lot to chip away at that very beginning, that starting point in the debt management plan and the credit counseling. But if somebody enrolls in a debt management plan, they benefit from reduced payments and reduced interest rates. And with the help of a nonprofit credit counselor, they can get their household budget under control. They can live within that household budget, and they can also carve out enough room for savings. And so as they pay down their debt in the debt management plan, they are able to not only reduce their debt effectively, but at some point in that timeline, when it's appropriate, the counselor will make available access to this pilot program that we have as part of the Life Beyond Debt program, which is the Wealth Builder Savings Account. And that will help people include savings deposits within their already set debt management plan monthly payment. So we're not asking people to pay more than they already were when they started the debt management plan, but as they begin to pay off some of the creditors that they owe through the program, some of the money that was going to that one creditor will now go to this wealth building savings account. And it's a goal-focused wealth building savings account. And as more creditors pay off in the life of the debt management plan, more of their money can go to the savings program. But the consumer always has control about how much is going into the savings plan and how much they may want to keep going towards the other remaining creditors in their debt management plan. So the results can be extremely positive for people who at one point couldn't even see that it was possible to pay off debt. So this is, as I mentioned, this is in the pilot stage right now. It is not ready for broader launch. We expect to broadly launch the program throughout more of our NFCC member agencies through our network sometime in mid-2026. But the pilot program is giving us an opportunity with a small subset of agencies. Right now we have 6 of our members who are working with us in this pilot program to conduct research on the participants in this program to determine the effectiveness of the program, how much this improves people's financial well-being over a set period of time, and what other positive results may be the outcome of this as people pay down their debt and grow their savings. And so our research and support for this comes from the Institute on Consumer Money Management, and the research arm is Boston College. So we're really pleased that the pilot has launched. It launched at the end of June, beginning of July, and we're looking forward to getting some of the initial data from that research to be able to help us as we scale this program up to serve more consumers. And one thing I want to mention as we wrap up the piece on the research and the pilot, that this savings program, this Wealth Builder savings program, is but one small component of what we hope will be a marketplace of other financial tools that don't just help people with short-term savings goals, but also help people as they move through a debt management program and as they become debt-free. It can help introduce individuals to other long-term savings products that they can consider that can help improve their financial stability, not just as they think about taking care of short-term goals or paying for emergencies, but also for retirement and for other life goals. So we're excited that this Life Beyond Debt program can build out to be much, much more than just helping people initially go from being in debt with zero savings to having some kind of a non-retirement emergency fund as they become debt-free. And so there's a lot of potential here with this program. And the pilot will help us inform the scalability and development of the program as we roll this out nationwide. But in the meantime, I just want to remind everybody that news about the program, the updates, the progress, and especially the research and the findings that we have from the work that Boston College and ICMM are conducting right now, those are going to be posted on a news page at nfcc.org as updates are available. And as you encounter people who are struggling to overcome debt challenges and need help from someone getting back on track and working with their creditors to get more manageable terms and affordably repay what they owe, you can still refer people to nfcc.org or the phone number, the 800-388-2227, and those services are still broadly available. Even though the Wealth Builder program is a limited pilot and is not available through those locator services. And also for housing counseling as well. If you're working with people who are struggling to move from renting to home ownership, we certainly have member agencies who can continue providing those services as well as foreclosure prevention. So thank you very much. And of course, happy to answer any questions about any of this as you may have them. And thank you for having me with you.
Great. Thank you, Bruce, Tasha, and Jason. Now let's turn to Nelson for questions. It's time to hear from you, audience.
Hi there. Yes, Linda, can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Great. We do have some questions. First, Tasha, lots of people are quite interested in the SaverLife program that you talked about. Somebody said, well, people are wondering how does someone become a member? And a couple of the questions were, are there any costs involved at any point, or maybe with some of the functions that SaverLife offers? And also people were curious about how SaverLife makes their money.
Awesome. Okay, I love all the curiosity. So it's easy to become a member. You can go to SaverLife.org. You can sign up there. There's a Get Started button. Happy to throw a link in this deck if it's going to be shared out as well. There is no cost. Everything is free to our members. Yeah, everything is free. How are we funded? I mean, we have generous support from financial institutions like Wells Fargo, and then also lots of foundations. So we're lucky that our mission resonates with a lot of people who are doing good work in this space.
Excellent. Thank you, Tasha. And then Jason, you talked about these topics earlier. Somebody's wondering if they are, planning to save for retirement, but also, want to think about their kids and college costs. How do they decide whether they should try to put money in a Roth IRA or in a 529? Should they do one first, then the other, both at the same time? Or do you know any kind of, or do you have any kind of advice on that or sources for that advice?
Great question. I will not provide specific advice on that. I think I think some of the talking to a financial advisor or a counselor as needed, because like every situation is different for one. So I think those are obviously given, a lot of people like myself included are sort of, try saving for the long term for their kids and also thinking about their own future. And so I think like there are folks who can help prioritize and think through that. Through sort of a financial advisor. Often workplaces will have those. If that's not an answer, there are you know, like qualified folks who are independent as well. There's also free counseling for folks to help start that. But I think like totally, if you know, like not everyone totally makes sense that not everybody is going to be able to save for every opportunity. But I think weighing the pros and cons, and frankly, like a lot of things, it comes down to priorities, right? If the resources are there, which one of those, you know, how to think about all of those decisions. You know, the one thing again, I'm not giving any financial advice here, but I think the one thing I would say is that, you know, while it comes down to priorities, I think one way to think about it is like, is there a match offered? So if there's for retirement savings in particular, like an employers often offer a match for saving, but only if the person contributes. So I think there are, yeah, that's just one way. And yet there are not many equivalent matches for early saving. But I think, yeah, in the end, like, you know, so maybe there's a stock answer that I'm missing, but I would say it sort of, you know, it comes down to priorities and individual use case. But to maximize any matches for saving for yourself first would kind of be my my approach, so as not to leave money on the table.
That sounds great, Jason. It's not one answer for everybody. Tasha and Bruce, do your programs help people work through the questions as they think about these things? You might be on mute if anyone's answering.
Yeah, I just unmuted. Yeah, I mean, I think yes, in terms of working through those questions, and I would say yes, our programs do. And again, I mean, we're, you know, there's a lot of what we're doing right now in terms of the Life Beyond Debt program and how it plugs into the debt management plans that we're offering to people who seek consumer credit counseling. A lot of it is educational. So we're definitely there to help people understand the suitability of different choices that they have in the marketplace, and not just in terms of how they resolve their debt issues. Obviously, suitability is a big issue, and that's one of the biggest problems with for-profit debt relief companies is they don't take time to determine suitability, and they just stick people into one solution and, you know, leave them off at the curb. So part of determining suitability is making sure that a consumer is very well informed about the choices that they're making. And so that educational component of the credit counseling process is critical. And the same applies to when people are enrolling in these wealth builder savings programs as part of the debt management plan. Of course, as the marketplace in Life Beyond Debt becomes a little bit more diverse, and there are other types of financial services and products that are being introduced to consumers, we're definitely walking them through some of the questions and helping them determine suitability of those services.
Great, thank you, Bruce.
Yeah.
We also have a question about the individual development accounts that used to be a little bit IDAs, that used to be a little bit more easy to find before. They're becoming harder to find. These were the match savings programs that help with things like home ownership, education, and business creation. Do you know if they're fully on their way out? Is there anything on the horizon that's similar to that? Or do we have to wait for the wealth builder program that you talked about, Bruce, things like that?
Yeah, I'm sorry, your question was about the match savings programs?
Yeah, the individual development accounts
Yeah.
that were they were pretty common a few years ago. I'm not sure if they're completely gone or on their way out.
Yeah, I mean, again, you know, it's all about where you're finding these resources, and you know, some of these matched savings programs may be on the way out, but there may be other types of programs or savings tools with similar benefit that might be introduced into the marketplace. So it's certainly something that we want to keep an eye on in terms of addressing any savings needs that consumers have as they seek counseling.
Okay, great. Thank you. Tasha, somebody's asking, well, they said it was really nice to hear the story about David, but they were wondering how David was able to save $15,000 while in subsidized housing, and I think you said on SSD, they note that typically an individual receiving government assistance is limited to liquid assets of $2,000. Did his state, the person asks, have a specialized savings plan for disabled individuals or something along those lines?
Yeah, he's in San Francisco in California. And so I do believe, I don't know the specifics, but I do believe they have a specialized savings program there that he was able to utilize. And as you can see, he was very persistent about finding resources, asking questions. And so, you know, we don't think that everyone should have to be so persistent. We want to illuminate some of those programs, but I think that's why he was able to, you know, find those resources when he needed them.
Okay.
And I will just going back to a previous question very quickly, because I muted myself when I meant to unmute. A lot of SaverLife content about kind of the suitability, about asking those questions, what's right for people. A lot of our content does speak to that. We don't like to be prescriptionary in our advice. So like, this is the one right way you can do it. And so when we're presenting options, we're going to say this fits best for these situations, but always, you know, talking to someone else. And I think that's why some of the counseling and pro bono financial advising can also be very helpful to people to dive into their unique situation. And can also be interesting to see how the AI Navigator helps to assess suitability and answer some of those questions, because it has that personalized data from our members.
Excellent. Thank you, Tasha. We are getting lots of comments, things like this is super content that you all are providing today. So thank you. People are very thankful for what's being provided. Somebody chimed in, at least I think they're in California, where the 2,000 asset limit only applies to individuals on SSI. Someone else is sharing that CEF, not sure what it stands for, in North Carolina has CEF has a match. So thank you for sharing those things. And other questions here we have. A lot of people want to get copies of the slides, that's for sure. So we are getting those out in about a week. Someone is asking, of the many fintechs out there, what made Per Capita stand out as the right or the best partner for the NFCC Wealth Builder program?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Thank you for asking that. Yeah, we did look at a lot of different partners, but I think it was part of it just was about the fact that what they offered in terms of supporting the technology that can make this work, and the Wealth Builder savings component, the partner that they work with for the savings tool. I think it was just a really good match based on the scalability aspect of this. And we're starting out with a pilot, and we just wanted the kind of technology support from Per Capita and the access that they could provide to the Wealth Builder savings program that would be an easy fit for our members to be able to use as a tool. Because again, the intent is to roll this out across the NFCC member network, and each of our members have different systems, different capabilities, different processes supporting their financial counseling, their credit counseling, and their debt management programs. And it just seemed that Per Capita was best suited to be able to plug in across that varied and diverse landscape of member agencies. So I appreciate the question.
Yeah, and there's actually a follow-up question. Thank you, Bruce. Whether this product is going to be free, the Wealth Builder product, and if it is free, how will your cost for the app be covered?
Yeah, that's a really good question as well. I mean, at the moment in the pilot program, there is no additional cost for consumers to be participating in the Wealth Builder program. I should mention, just in full disclosure, that our member agencies they do charge some maintenance fees for the debt management plan, and of course, those fees are regulated by states at the state level, and those fees are set appropriately so that the debt management plan can first and foremost work to help improve somebody's financial circumstances, and can be scalable based on the type of circumstances and the type of debt that a consumer has within those limitations. So yes, there is typically a maintenance fee for the debt management plan, But at this point, there's no additional fee for the Wealth Builder program because it, as I described it, the Wealth Builder program is something that is currently being offered as a component of the debt management plan that already is in place for consumers who enroll. So it's, and I should also add too, that in the pilot program, the savings program does come with some incentives. So it is an incentivized savings program, and we hope to be able to continue that as we scale the program out more broadly across our national network. So it not only is the Wealth Builder program, savings program free at no additional cost to consumers, but right now consumers who enroll in the pilot program, their savings is incentivized.
Great, thank you. And then a lot of the nonprofits that are joining us today, and including Consumer Action, we're small nonprofits, and not every nonprofit necessarily has a work-based retirement savings plan. Jason, you talked about a few things earlier, at work, but if there are no options at work, what options might you have as an employee, as an individual? But maybe are there other tips, or how do you talk to your employer about what options there may be for them as a small nonprofit or a small business? Any resources for that or research that you have?
That's a great question. I think for employers who don't offer it, there are a growing number of state-based retirement plans, which are basically automatic enrollment into IRAs or auto IRAs. So I think one is to, based on your state, to check and see if those are available. California, Oregon, Illinois are some that are pretty well advanced. There are others that are in different stages of development or the policy process. But one is an infrastructure there. I mean, there are like a bunch of startups and smaller companies that offer solutions to that. And I think as an individual, there are still folks can open an IRA or a traditional or a Roth IRA, and that's one of those situations that sort of the tax treatment is different, and so would advise it based on someone's income and financial situation. There are a range of tools that would that would be a conversation for outside of an employer, even for someone to seek advice. And I think even a financial advisor or counselor could help sort of sort out what the best options are, and then if the money's available, to divert that automatically with every paycheck into that account to make it as automatic and seamless as possible.
Okay, thank you. And then I'll wrap up shortly with just a couple more questions. One should be quick. Somebody asked, Bruce, you talked about some 2025 survey results. Do you know how many people were in part of that survey? It may have been the Harris poll or some of the early research you shared.
Yeah, we when we surveyed in the spring, we do have information about how many were in that survey. We have some of the details on how many people were in that general population sample. I don't have that right in front of me now, but it was conducted by Harris Poll, and it was determined to be statistically significant. So I can at least say that.
Okay. If there's we can always share a link next week with people when we send them the information, if you want to.
Yeah, that information is actually detailed on our press page, on our news page, on our website in the initial release about the survey findings. The survey, the details about the survey and the sample size and the survey process are all there.
Okay, great. And then Tasha, you talked about the gamified savings. Do you have anything more to share? Are there any new things coming along in terms of incentivizing savings through gamification?
Oh, we're always thinking about kind of new games, new ways to play. So yes, I don't have any specific details right now, but always trying to kind of expand what people can do with the points that they earn, and then always trying to create new challenges, right? So that those are specific and personalized, and get people real cash into their savings accounts. So no specifics, but certainly always evolving.
Could you tell us what you saw working best, I guess, in terms of the gamification element that you have?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the most popular thing is, like I said, those kind of lottery style scratchers that work. So people earn points. I think if they get like 300 points, then they can buy a scratcher. It's obviously digital, so you don't get that kind of fulfillment that you get from using the penny at home, but they have pretty good odds there of winning like $5 to $10 on the scratchers. And so those are probably the most popular ones. Yeah.
Okay, great. And then just the last question, and maybe if any of you have ideas, and maybe Jason, since it was part of your topic too, once in retirement, and you alluded to this, once you're in retirement, how do you make your money last? Is there any resources there? Any ideas for continuing to save in retirement after you're in retirement?
Well, one of the things that I would mention is that, and this is something that I stated, I just had a discussion with a different group earlier, and I said one of the goals that you need to have
Is this Bruce?
yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's Bruce. One of the goals that you need to have as you go into retirement is to limit the amount of high interest rate unsecured debt that you owe. And that's part of, that's part of the approach to retirement, is paying down that high interest rate debt, getting rid of all that credit card debt, or more effectively managing what you will have to carry into retirement, trying to get the lowest interest rates possible, trying to work out something in your budget that allows you to power pay what's left. So I think, we talked about, when I was talking about the Harris Poll survey, I was talking about how many Americans are saying that debt is getting in the way of their ability to save. Well, I think for retirees, that's especially critical, because debt is not only getting in the way of your ability to save, it's getting in the way of you making the most of what you did save for the necessities in your retirement years. And just quickly, as I wrap up that answer, for the answer on the methodology of the survey, we surveyed 2010 adults ages 18 and over between February and March. So that's I guess a snapshot on the methodology.
Great, thank you, Bruce. Anyone else on tips for the people who are in retirement?
I mean, I think quickly claiming, when you claim Social Security determines how much you get every month. And that is for as the policy is currently written, like that goes until for as long as you go. So to just, again, a lot of this, I mean, talk to a financial advisor is sort of the short answer, but I think delayed claiming, if possible, means you get more every month for as long as you live. So Social Security, for those with retirement, I think I agree on the point about paying that high interest unsecured debt first. I think for those with some retirement savings, there are different products and options out there, like annuities, so you can, very basically pay a lump sum to be guaranteed a certain amount over a certain period of time. And so all of these sort of depends on, so there are products and vehicles available. The one that applies to almost everybody, or the vast majority of people, will be the Social Security delayed claiming. If you claim at 70, you get the maximum amount that you're entitled to. You get less if you claim sort of what they call early claiming in 63. So just that's the one consideration I would give.
Thank you so much. And Tasha, there was one last question, just a clarification. Does SaverLife work with a particular lender in terms of any other products? Are there any lenders that you're working with?
We are agnostic. Yeah, so I'm trying to think through our Saver Perks, if any of them are lenders. I wouldn't, not traditionally like financial institution lenders, no, but I'd have to kind of profile through all of the different Saver Perks in my, but no, we're agnostic when it comes to financial institutions.
And there's no particular lender that is used for any of the products?
No.
No. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Linda, I'll turn it back to you. We are running over time a bit. Thank you so much, panel. These were great questions. People are offering lots of positive comments. Thank you.
Yes, audience, please join me in thanking Jason, Tasha, and Bruce for those outstanding presentations. If you enjoyed the webinar and wish to contribute to consumer action, there are several ways to do so. You can, donations can be made online via credit card or PayPal. Just go to our website at www.consumer-action.org and click on the link, and you can make a donation. Alternatively, We take checks too. You can mail a check to Consumer Action, Attention Membership Given, 57 Post Street, Suite 708, San Francisco, California, 94104. Another great way, impactful way to support us is by subscribing to our YouTube channel. Subscribing is entirely free, and it comes with a couple of benefits. You'll receive notification whenever we upload a new video, and your subscription would help signal to YouTube that our content, our information is valuable, and that will enhance our visibility to a broader audience. Once more, a huge thank to our guest speakers for their outstanding presentations. You rock. A special thanks to our sponsor, Wells Fargo, and Lawrence for joining us and hanging in there. And a special thanks to all of you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. It is your support and participation that make our events successful. Now, before you leave today, take a moment to complete that evaluation form. Your feedback is not just welcome, it is crucial to helping us provide, improve, and provide you with the best experience possible. We want to know, did we meet your expectations today? Wishing you an excellent rest of your day. Goodbye and take care.